everybody, Strangers123 here, today with another replay cast. Figured I'd just spam some CV replays in between, hopefully, some upcoming Graf Zeppelin content. All in all considered, since Wargaming's, not probably around on the weekends, might have to wait until the weekdays to actually get you guys the Graf Zeppelin content approved, but whatever, who gives a shit. Here we are, this is me playing a Midway. I was going through my old replays folders, and just looking for completely random stuff. This is a replay from 0.5.11.1, build number 198132, so it's quite a while back. It was a game that was played on the 23rd of... I think it's October 2016. I suck at these months. I always go by the numerical because, that's what we have in Chinese, I guess. But whatever. Anyways, this is me playing a 2-1-2 Midway, and I'm against another Midway. Now, without actually having... Oh yeah, back then this actually worked. I think I might have to buff the volume a little bit though. Here we go. Okay, that might be a bit on the loud end. Screw it, that's good enough. Anyways, let's see if I can actually get map markers. As you can see, you don't have the markers for friendly names and whatnot, but whatever. I'm playing with Reita in a gearing. I think he's actually reasonably AA spec as well. Don't think he's fully AA spec like I have. I'm not actually sure. I think he might have a slightly more reasonable spec than me with Superintendent instead of BFT. I'm not sure, as it was a while ago. And the other one is Pointy Head Jedi. I will leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description. Great guy, great content. Definitely suggest you check him out if you haven't already. Anyways, I'm flying towards the middle of the map with my fighters and my torpedo bombers down to Charlie if I can get lucky enough to catch something out. I do find an enemy series of fighters. So for the moment, I'm not really interested in picking a fight with them. By the way, there's no strafe disengage at this point, so... well, it turns out I am interested in picking a fight with him, so I am going to go pick a fight with him and see what's up. For the moment, the gearing hasn't triggered defensive AA, but has actually knocked some of my planes down, which is a little bit annoying. But I got what seems to be a pretty decent commit on him, so while I'm murdering his fighters, hopefully I can also rip apart this gearing, or at least rip a good chunk of his health off. And unfortunately, just managed to dodge the last torpedo. But that's a really, really good opening attack against him. And as there was no strafe disengaging, I couldn't just disengage and then murder his fighter squadron, but I do see his strike planes coming along, so I'm going to go and see if I can't strafe some of this away. Otherwise, I'm sending my fighters back down in the direction of where the gearing was. This enemy carrier, for what we know now, is a 113, so hopefully I will be able to pick up some good plane farming off this guy. I know I'm flying my planes towards the Montana and whatnot, but for the moment it seems that the damage squadron is the one being focused, so that's perfectly fine by me. I'm just going to see if I can't strafe all of this, as much of this shit away as I can, just for the lulz. And if I do lose the planes for this moment, I don't really care too much, because I've thinned out his strike planes, and it's going to take time before he can get his planes airborne himself, so, well, it's kind of beneficial for us. Anyways, I think this Fletcher is going to try to do some funkies, but he's picking up speed again. He's being shot on by people, and I do manage to get a click on him as well, so he's probably going to go down, and Reita managed to nick the kill, which is good for us. Hopefully he's going to go undetected now. Losing the fighters there isn't a major problem because, Midway just has so many fighters it literally doesn't matter, so I went a bit too ham. So, well, the Midway is deciding he's going to randomly drop torpedoes into the void, although Hashima's got anti-aircraft turned on, so he's getting spotted now, but, hey, whatever. The doesnt guy's taking some damage as well, and, well, Hashima just got clicked on a little bit. Not too much of a major problem because we're still winning the trade, considering the fact that we killed the Fletcher and the gearing's almost dead as well. Well, our gearing is still healthy, and our Fletcher does actually have the health upgrade, which is good for us. Don't worry, that's probably my team speak. Almost certainly my team speak. Regardless, seeing that the enemy team is interested in heading towards I am going to sail my ship straight down towards Charlie, because that seems to be the flank we're kind of winning right now. In the meantime, waiting for my planes to cycle. I do have a torpedo bomber that's already ready and airborne, since torpedo bombers are what cycle the fastest on a Midway. Might as well send it off and see if I can't pick up some damage. Otherwise, need to wait for my fighters to get up. There's probably some destroyers. Yep, there you go. There is a destroyer behind us somewhere that's now chasing me, which is a little bit annoying because it means I'm going to have to deal with it. Anyways, just holding the alt button to see if there's any reaction from defensive. There isn't. He hasn't even turned his anti-aircraft on, but this is going to be a miserably failed drop because he turned in at the very last minute. Not something I actually recognized. But we're just going to keep him spotted because making him turn, making him react and keeping him spotted is all we need because there's so much firepower in the area. I've spotted all of his torpedoes, so considering the fact that he's targeting Jedi, those aren't going to do jack. My fighters are arriving now, so I don't need to keep this torpedo bomber here. I can actually cycle it and, you know, do something more useful with it. I'm still spotted, which is kind of unnerving. There you go, I'm finally unspotted. The gearing has finally gotten himself into the smoke. Gonna cycle my my torpedo bomber, but for some reason one of the dive bombers has failed to receive the order to take off. Hopefully Jedi's not going to take one of these torpedoes. And I'm basically just going to park this fighter on top of the gearing, just to make sure he doesn't get anywhere with it. Loyang gets spotted as well, and I'm basically just going to auto-tag on this enemy fighter, while keeping my dive bomber instead to spot for torpedoes from the enemy destroyers. Kind of thinking maybe I should go click on the gearing invisibly in smoke since he doesn't have the world's most amount of health. But for the moment my priority is to keep spotting torpedoes for both Loyang and gearing so that we make sure that Reta and Jedi do not get themselves torped to death. That would be kind of unfortunate right now. Anyways, we can see the enemy carrier is trying to do some funnies around Bravo. He's already fed me 2 fighter squadrons, although I did feed 2 fighter squadrons to the enemy Montana group. For the moment, with 2 USN smoke clouds over there, there's not really much I can do about it, but I'm just going to instead go and try to counter enemy aircraft carrier planes. The destroyers have left their smoke screens for the moment, but I'm just keeping these dive bombers somewhere between them and torpedoes. Going to make sure that this gearing stays spotted long enough that he actually can get shot to death. Don't need to commit that click because the Kutuzov does manage to pick up the kill. Enemy carrier still trying to make some moves around. I'm gonna go park my planes back over the position of the Loyang just to make sure that he doesn't get any torpedoes. Committing the damage strafing first just to see if the enemy carrier wants to react or not, and then I'm just gonna auto-clip with the healthy one. I know that I'm kind of within anti-aircraft of some of the stuff down here, and my planes are suffering a little bit of losses to bleed. Going to disengage the what's this called? The auto latch and strafe for the damage squadron in case he does want to react. I know I'm feeding more planes to this Montana, but at this point it doesn't really matter because the focus is on killing their destroyers, not on not bleeding my planes to anti-aircraft. And I know that if I can pull my dive bombers in to click on this Montana, the end result is kind of worth it. Because my dive bombers are then going to tank any further damage. Unfortunately, I don't have much ammo left to actually strafe away this, so sucks to be me, I guess. But if I'm lucky, I might be able to pick up 1 plane. That is, of course, if I'm extremely lucky, which clearly I am not. Anyways, just gonna click on this gearing quickly. UI probably isn't going to be fast enough to actually react to that. This Montana is still on fire and he's approaching the smoke screen, but I still want to use these torpedo bombers that I happen to have around. Especially because it will, if I drop like this, it'll force him to move and hopefully force him out of the smoke screen and back into shooting range by, well, the entire goddamn team. And as you can see, he is kind of sailing right into that, which is lucky for me. Unfortunately, no flooding in the front one misses, but he's outside of the smoke screen, so he's not gaining any bonus from that, which is, well, not necessarily a great use of my aerial resources, but it certainly ain't too bad of one either. Although at this point I've really just been throwing away fighters to the guy and hey, screw it, I've got enough. Especially since I know that the enemy carrier is basically suffering the same if not worse bleed. Although basically the only issue I would have is to make sure that I can outstrike, and I already have outstrike because my damage is mostly based off destroyers. We've gotten basically well, I've assisted in killing all 3 destroyers. The gearing I managed to get 2 torpedo hits, and no, this gearing I hit 2 torpedoes, but I spotted this gearing and the Loyang. I'm actually not sure where the Fletcher died again. I think that's this guy. Oh yeah, I spotted him as well, I think. Anyways, enemy carrier is flying towards Reta. Got a fighter squadron airborne, so I basically tell him that if he needs to trigger defensive anti-aircraft, I'll have fighters there shortly following, and there's, you know, enough friendlies near there. There's a Kutuzov there. I believe that's a Kutuzov, if I can actually get my... Yep, it is, because of the smoke screen, and my fighters are here, so it's basically just a matter of tripping apart the enemy fighters, and with this kind of an anti-aircraft bleed, he's going to, well, bleed planes to this. I highly doubt that Aether's triggered his defensive anti-aircraft, as there's no need whatsoever to do so. Just gonna send my fighter to chase and auto-tag. If he wants to pull any funnies near there, it's perfectly fine. He does actually strafe my fighter, but as damaged as that is, it's never going to do anything, and it's just going to be a free kill. It seems the enemy fighter doesn't really last much more longer, but as there's no strafe disengaging, I can't actually just swap-tag and go for the dive bomber immediately. So I'm basically just gonna sit and auto-tag it to panic the plane and make sure it stays that way. So, he drops the hipper, but it doesn't get anywhere, so for the moment I'd say I'm actually pulling better on strike. Anyways, none of my fighters actually bled losses in this case, so now I can split my fighters off and see if I can't catch more of his incoming strike. In the meantime, I need to actually attack this North Carolina, get him down and out of the game, while also looking for more of their stuff that seems to be around, and we finally find this gearing again. Gonna keep my fighters above him. Again, I don't care about the fighter bleed that I might potentially suffer. Getting this gearing down is much more valuable. And I spot all of his torpedoes, so that's very good for our team in the area as well. Otherwise, I'm flying at this North Carolina. For the moment, I haven't bled any planes, so I'm basically making the assumption that this guy is not anti-aircraft spec. Especially considering I did manage to get 5 of the bombers through to click on him. Only one fire though, so it's basically a question of, is this guy going to be daft enough to damage on that single fire or not? Doesn't appear to be that way. This guy doesn't seem to be completely silly, so I will let it burn for a little bit, then go in with the second dive bomber and try to click him again. This gearing seems to actually be getting away, which is a bit unfortunate. I don't really like that. So I'm just going to pull my planes away, and I keep right-clicking for some reason, which is kind of annoying, but yeah, it's me, I guess. Anyways, the gearing, we're just going to leave him be for the moment. I'm wondering where the enemy aircraft carrier strike planes are, and as myself, I am moving towards the border, and I don't really want to get there too far. This fire's been burning for a while enough, so I'm going to click him again. Hopefully I get another fire. In this case, I actually get 2. So he's basically got 3 fires burning on him, and, well, one of them which were about to expire. Actually, I think it expired just as I clicked on him. So now I'm just going to go take a quick fight with the enemy Midway if I want. This... Don't really care, again, too much about my anti-aircraft bleed, because I know that this is basically his last set of fighters that he has available to him, and this North Carolina is nicely burning, so his anti-aircraft isn't going to be too good. Especially if I fly my torpedo bombers in, the torpedo bombers will, the moment they get into anti-aircraft range, most likely suck up the AA defense of this North Carolina. So again, it's mostly just me being very, very wasteful with my fighters, but I'm in a Midway, so the amount of fucks I can give is a grand total of none. And as you can see, this North Carolina does actually manage to pick up a bunch of my planes, so he might actually be AA spec for all I know. So my torpedo bombers all get quickly wiped, but he did trigger his damage control party, so this guy's basically stuffed. And as you can see, my damage is ticking up and the guy is slightly healing, but it doesn't matter. All my planes got wiped and I'm really far away from battle, so it's going to take some time before I can get them up and airborne again. So pretty much just hoping that the team can actually pull something out of it, but that North Carolina is eventually going to die. The enemy carrier at this point is going to get a free attack because I decided I was going to trade planes just to guarantee a kill on this North Carolina, which I did manage to. Unfortunately, he's probably going to actually get our Turpit's kill, especially with the enemy carrier looming above, so Data just need, well, if he wants to trigger his defensive anti-aircraft, focusing the dive bombers here is the better choice to make. Although focusing anything is always nice. Hopefully the Turpit's does actually have a heal available and can maybe survive this, but the North Carolina shoots him, so that's not really an option. But NC is still flooding, so it's going to become a trade, and oops, he does go down. Now, focusing torpedo bombers for Reita, since he knows that all the dive bombers are gone, and, well, amazing torpedo bomber drop. Reita can now enter the Alpha Cap and secure that. Well, I need to send the planes and find out what the destroyers behind the Jedi are doing. Somehow they're actually still alive, despite, you know, me having spotted them for fair points of the game, which is kind of annoying. Although I know that the gearing is direly low on HP, and I'm not actually sure about the shimmer at this point. But there we are, gearing on 900 health, so one battleship hit is going to guarantee his death. So hopefully we can actually pick up that kill. Find the shimmer as well, and I see him torping, so I'm just going to make sure I can spot all of those torpedoes, and there they are. So my job's done there. Hopefully Jedi can finish off the gearing, because his Shimmer's not really doing too much at the moment. I want the gearing dead because it's an easier kill. Gearing is trying to smoke screen as well, so I'm going to put a click, and I do manage to pick up the kill. Bit of an excessive use of a squadron, but hey, dead gearing is dead gearing. Now those fighter squadrons are spotting Jedi, so I'm just hoping that the Shimmer's going to go and shoot him a bit, because that would be beneficial for me. Otherwise, Reita is smoking up to shoot at the Montana, so I'm just going to try to, get the Montana's attention instead. Ordering an auto attack on the last enemy fighters. I'm also suffering fighter bleed myself at this point, so I'm getting close to being low. However, I know that I can basically come in here, tag the fighter, kill the Montana with a proper drop sequence. Just realistically speaking, this is a bit of a crappy dive bomber drop. I should never have done that. I should have done a proper dive bomber drop and actually, aim for the damage. But I know that Reita is shooting at him, so even if I fail to kill him up front, the point is really just to get his health down so that Reita can actually get alpha. There are torps coming in, which I had completely forgotten about. The Shimmer was actually running 20k torpedoes, but it shouldn't be a problem. I should be able to turn into them, because 20k torpedoes are slow as fuck. And at this range they spread so much, it's not really a major problem. Still keeping my fighter near the area where the Shimmer was, because his smoke screen is going to at some point expire. And I can see the enemy strike planes coming along now, so now it's my time to actually start farming strike planes. Shimmer gets spotted, so I'm just going to send one fighter squadron there to keep him spotted, so we know what's up with him. And hopefully the stuff that's around can actually shoot at it. Commit the strafe against this dive bomber. Seems to be a reasonably good strafing, and there we go, they're all getting wiped. Gonna start moving my ship towards the battle as well this time. I do see some of the Shimmer torpedoes, and at this point I'm figuring it's actually a bigger priority to spot the Shimmer's torpedoes rather than to properly deal with the strike plane. So I only have this damaged fighter squadron nearby to actually defend with. Do manage to wipe that squadron, and now that's basically out of ammo, so Reita should have a defensive anti-aircraft charge available, so he should be able to delay or minimize the strike. And Jedi's close enough to the island, but not realizing the enemy carrier is so desperate to try to actually do something that it's actually willing to fly into something like this, which was something I did not legitimately expect. Do manage to strafe away one of the planes before it commits, and he does not have torpedo acceleration, so he does actually manage to hit Jedi, which is a very interesting choice for an aircraft carrier. Unless you're NA, you always want to build with torpedo acceleration in mind. So that was a bit of a missed decision on my end. Spotting the Shimmer was, in the end, not worth any kind of damage on a division like that. Although, because the enemy teams are purely, destroyer cruiser, and Jedi having so much health plus smokescreen support available, it shouldn't, in the end, be a major problem. Anyways, we're gonna respot this Shimmer again, and now it's really just me trying to click on the Shimmer and actually, annoy him more. Do get one click and the fire. I'm just going to keep this dive bomber and nearby enough to spot. The dive bomber drop was mostly me hoping for luck with getting some engine or steering crit, so that he might not be in a position to turn to evade. But it doesn't seem like he is too intent on evading, so this should be the kill with a perfect armed torpedo. And by perfect armed torpedo, I mean fuck server delay, because it was perfectly armed, and you can see the green triangle, which is kind of annoying because you know that it should arm at that point, but it doesn't. I could have dropped it a little bit farther away, and I should have dropped it a little bit farther away, but anyways, he's taking damage, and I'm keeping being spotted, so he's completely combat ineffective regardless, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. Keeping two dive bomber squadron here is a complete waste of resources, so I'm going to cycle one and keep the other one nearby enough to spot. Reita does pick up the kill, so that's him out of the way, and I'm just going to see if I can't strafe away some more Midway planes, because I know he's out of fighters, and, well, it's really just me trying to farm more planes at the end. Anyways, we did manage to pull a comeback through this. Just going to expend the last bit of ammo of my number 3 fighter squadron so I can actually send them home and cycle them again, because that way, I can keep more, planes airborne at the same time instead of having 2 squads out of ammo and then have to cycle both at the same time. In the end, I do manage to get my clear sky coming in at 80 plus planes, which is something you normally need against the Midway to do actually, clear skies. Shimmer's gone down, and I understand the chances of me getting another strike off are pretty low, so that dive bomber is really just circling around doing absolutely nothing for no real reason. I finally wake up and cycle it home. I think I was either alt-tabbing to play Contact Collection as I finally find a break, or I don't even know. Either way, my number 2 fighter is basically out of ammo. My number 3 hasn't landed yet because my strike planes are coming back airborne. There's no point whatsoever in launching any strike here. There's no point whatsoever in launching anything because I'm so far away from the battle, none of it's going to get anywhere. So that basically marks the end of my game. 154,638 damage, 12 torpedo hits. Pretty failed on the Shimakaze. I should have had the kill on that. Again, with going for these ultra close drops in case he turns the other way, which is kind of what I expected him to do again, but he just decided he's going to sail in a circle. Mind you, that's a bad idea for you as a destroyer to just sail in a circle. It usually makes it pretty easy even for something like a Midway with really, really sluggish planes to drop on you, but hey, I screwed it up. Last plane of the game, which is going to let me pick up my 90th plane, not like it matters. Yeah, having a look at the end results, 184,000 damage, like I said, 90 planes shot down, 3 crits, a few fires. Most of my damage was picked up, you know, the little I had off the battleships. Team score, I'm top on the score, not by much. Data coming in at a really close 2,503, which is 91 less than me, and Jedi coming really close to that as well. But the rest of my team, well, I mean, we were tier 10s, so, you know, Kutuzov seemed to have a good time trying to deal damage as well, but, you know, it's a Kutuzov, it's kind of what you'd expect. So, off the enemy team, it was the Montana and actually the AA Spec North Carolina that I picked up most of my planes. I did bleed quite a few fighters to both of these guys, but at the end of the day, it didn't seem to work out too badly. Although, not being a normal 2-on-2 player, in hindsight, that was me going a bit too ham, and keeping my ship that far away because of the threat of destroyers meant that there were times where the enemy carrier could actually have gone in for free and done some damage. So, well, in hindsight, throwing fighters away into the fray like that is usually not the best idea, though that was just me going ham, and the plane farms at the end were just after I deplaned all of his fighters. Could have handled that much better. Anyways, detailed report, 75k off the North Carolina. He let basically 3 fires burn, and then Damacon, one of the last 2 fires, halfway down his health, so the 2 torpedo hits plus flooding I got killed him off. If he hadn't Damacon that and kept it for the flooding, he would actually have survived. Montana, I do manage to pick up 61k off. He didn't have any AA specs, it wasn't that much of a deal. Gearing 16k torps in the beginning, and the rest of the destroyers is me just randomly clicking on for a little bit of luck. I think I strafed away one of Jedi's planes, so that's basically the pink damage you see there. Credits and XP, 300k credit profit, full try-hard setup, of course, with full premium, which is kind of what you would expect. Do manage to get some XP. I mean, it's an aircraft carrier, and I'm not running any XP flags on it because, you know, I've pretty much got what I wanted. This was before the 90-point captains were widely available, so as you can see, I need a total of 9,999,999 experience to get myself to 19 point from 18-point captain, so by this point it didn't really matter, although I know the data actually had a 19-point Shokaku captain at some point in here. Anyways, I hope you guys also enjoyed this replay cast, and perhaps we'll see some Graf Zeppelin content coming to a YouTube channel near you.